I'd like to begin tonight with the following land acknowledgement. I am a grateful but uninvited visitor to the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, past and present, including the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations and the Duwamish peoples. I acknowledge the land on which I live, learn, and practice as Coast Salish land. I recognize this land acknowledgement to be only one small act in an ongoing process of understanding and opposing the systematic oppression and historic and contemporary erasure of indigeneity and indigenous peoples. We are on stolen land. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yvette Moy, and I am the University of Washington's Director of Public Lectures, and we are housed in the graduate school. And I really want to thank all of you in our audience who showed up on this very chilly night and braving the cold. We really appreciate spending time in community with you. I also want to thank our friends who are watching us on live stream this evening. Welcome. I also want to acknowledge our department co-host who helped bring Dr. Martha Gonzalez to campus. That includes the Department of Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies, also known as GWIS, the College of, woo, yay, where are you at? The College of Arts and Sciences, the Simpson Center for the Humanities, and the School of Music, and the Department of Ethnomusicology. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping items. If you haven't done so already, please silence or turn off your cellular devices. We ask that you refrain from taking making video or audio recordings of this evening's talk. We are live streaming it, as I mentioned earlier, and it is being recorded and will stream on the Office of Public Lectures YouTube page. It usually takes about 48 hours for us to get it posted, but you'll find it. We ask also that you refrain from taking photos while our guests are on the stage. You will see our student assistant, Kavya, who'll be walking through to take photos every now and then for social media, because if we don't post it, it didn't happen. That's what we've learned. This evening, you can come to the microphone to ask a question, or you can use the QR code right there. Thanks, guys. You can scan it on your phone, and it's called Slido. And you can upvote or downvote a question so that we know which questions are most important. When you do come to the microphone, however, friends in the audience, we do ask you to remember to ask your question in the form of a question. It's just respectful, right? Dr. Martha Gonzalez is going to be introduced by the UW professor in Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies, GWIS. And she holds an adjunct position in the School of Music in the Department of Communication, Dr. Michelle Habel-Payan. But as Dr. Michelle Habel-Payan makes her way to the stage, I want to invite you in the audience to take a moment to introduce yourself to the people around you. Say hi.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's so exciting. Lots going on in the world. So thank you, Yvette, for introducing me and for creating this incredible programming, and everyone in the office. So I am Dr. Michelle Habel-Payan, and I'm here to introduce Dr. Martha Gonzalez. So she is a Chicana artivista. The word artivista is a combination of both the words artist and activist. Martha is a musician, feminist theorist, and associate professor in the Intercollegiate Department of Chicana, Latino Studies at the Scripps Claremont College. And she possesses a particular genius in bridging public scholarship and community building. Born and raised in Boyle Heights, which is East Los to a lot of us, Dr. Gonzalez has received various fellowships, including a Fulbright Garcia Robles Ford Fellowship, Woodrow Wilson USA Fellowship, as well as the MacArthur Genius Fellowship Award. Her academic interests have been fueled by her own musicianship as a singer, songwriter, and percussionist for the Grammy Award-winning band Quetzal. The relevance of Quetzal's music and lyrics have been noted in a range of publications, from dissertations to scholarly books, and the recording Puentes Sonoros, or Sonic Bridges, was released on the Smithsonian Folkways in the fall of 2020. Dr. Gonzalez, along with her partner Quetzal Flores, has been instrumental in catalyzing the transnational dialogue between Chicana Latina communities in the US and Jarocho communities in Veracruz, Mexico, and all over the world, actually, and have been active in implementing the collective songwriting method in correctional facilities throughout the United States. She and Quetzal are beloved by the Seattle Fandango Project as well. More recently, Dr. Gonzalez's tarima, or her stomp box right here, that we're gonna get to hear from tonight, and her zapateado, dance shoes, were acquired by the National Museum of American History and are on permanent display in the One Nation, Many Voices exhibit. So she's recognized as a national treasure. Her first manuscript, Chicana Artivista, Music, Community, and Transborder Tactics in East Los Angeles, was published by the University of Texas Press in 2020 and was recently translated into Spanish by Interpec. And I know this is a book you should go really read because I got to read it as a dissertation before it was developed into its full book, and I got to read it as a dissertation because I was able to recruit Martha into the Gender, Women's Studies and Sexuality Studies department, and all good has happened since then. So right now, as we think about people all over the world, and especially in Los Angeles and all over the place where the lottery building is going to need to be taken, please join me in welcoming to the stage UW alum, Dr. Martha Gonzalez. Yay.
Thank you so much. What an honor. And I'd like to invite up here my partner in crime, in life and music, Quetzal Flores. Thank you, Quetzal. Give it up for Quetzal. And of course, Yvette Moy. Thank you so much. Kate Golden and UW Public Lectures. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also to my mentor and academic comadre, Professor Michelle Habel Payan, and of course the G-Whiz department. So it goes like this. We can start my slide presentation. Si quieren saber mi nombre y también mi apelativo, Martha Gonzalez me llamo y en Los Ángeles vivo. Soy profesora de oficio, madre de un muchachón, voz de la banda Quetzal, chicana de corazón. Una. All right. For some reason, we can't see my first slide. Am I right? Up here? Okay. Ogun is mad at us today. Let's see. We tested this and it worked. Oh. 2 minutes ago, right? Let's try this.
There it is. Oh, there was.
Oh, there it is.
Restart your slideshow and I think
Okay, all right. Yay. Get up for our tech guys, y'all. Yes. Since childhood, my life has been marked by music. Music in the home, music on the stage, music in community. From lullabies to rehearsed and stage performances, music has been the greatest tool. I've been blessed with the love of music to not only console my anxiety and worry about life, but it has also been the tool that I've used to dream, to celebrate and create my own reality. In this way, the entirety of my work is based in and around the cosmology of music. Music as universe and constellation, and the infinity of ways that it can be harnessed to engage life in all its beauty and challenges. A song as a story, archive, or a song as process. As a graduate student at the University of Washington, beginning in 2008, I had the privilege to delve into reflecting on these practices. As I read many books of the great minds and the vast theories and methods, song lyrics always resonated. There was always a song I heard in my mind or a lyric that reminded me of said lesson. The poetry in songs and how they comment on or can become culture. Songs as commentary, songs as archives. So this talk will thread songs and embedded archives to explain the work that I do, that we do. For songs are a material trace of a people's history. And so back to the beginning, I am the daughter of immigrant parents from Guadalajara, Jalisco. Born into responsibility, I was raised by a single mother that struggled to raise 4 children on a second grade education. And like many, her journey to this country begins with sacrifice, with migration, for family. And so it goes like this. The song is called Pillow People. Hui. Síguele. Dice, over mountains, over cerros, over desert valleys, from the ranchos to the towns to the city alleys, coming ones, coming twos, Texas, Utah, Cali, people walking, running, crawling, border tallies, men, boys, women, girls, young, old, skinny, ratty, hold their elders, hold their hopes, hold their little babies, no food, no means, no way to have it, run, stumble, fall, get back up and at it. Yeah, make the plan, pay the man, truck it, walk it, run it. Under moon, under radar, make the dash and gun it. Touching down, get to town, washing, working, mowing. Taking heed, filling need, sending lana, knowing that you need, filled by greed, past and present sowing. Other ties, US lies, COINTEL and broing. The more they come, build, challenge, states of law and knowing. What is seen, what it's moving, there is no destroying. And if you've heard this story, you know more pain than glory. Oh, pillow people. Whoa, dreaming people. Dreaming, dreaming, dreaming dreams, real slowly lifting. On the pillows in the valleys, on the vestia drifting. Milagros, santos, nichos, luck, elder persinadas. A safe return, a miracle, new peregrinada. The oracle said miracle, yeah. It's a pinnacle, yeah. The oracle said miracle, yeah. Dreaming is the pinnacle, yeah. And if you've heard this story, you know more pain than glory. Oh, pillow people. Oh, pillow people. Thank you. I forgot those previous slides there. My family and all the stuff. So I arrived to academia with an extensive body of work as an artivista, or an artist and activist and public intellectual. As a member of the band Quetzal, I began to identify as an artivista in the late 90s. A conflation of two words, artista, artist, and activist, activista. Artivista signals more than just an identity. It signals to process. My scholarly interests have been fueled by over 20 years of experience as an active music practitioner and community musician and activist. In this way, I follow in the footsteps of women of color, artists, activists, scholars, who both produced and theorized their own cultural production. People like Gloria Anzaldúa, Judith Baca, Coco Fusco, Audre Lorde. I've been invested in building the language around what I do as an artist, scholar, and community activist through various participatory music methods. And I seek to make these roles and methods legible to the academy as I live them seamlessly. Ultimately, my goal is to fundamentally challenge the, quote, Eurocentric masculinist criteria for methodological adequacy. In graduate school, I found myself in the wonderful Department of Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. Like many scholars in my field, I realized I did not wish to uphold colonial inquiries, but rather move towards a different way within the academy. Colonial legacy is embodied, and we have adopted so much that we often don't question. Therefore, the decolonial must involve not just the mind, but the body as well, and the spirit that connects the two. As Laura E. Perez states in Eros, Ideologies, Writings on Art, Spirituality, and the Decolonial is, quote, intensely embodied, personal, psychological, and spiritual practice, alongside cultural, economic, and geopolitical work, end quote. Scholars such as Carl G. Jung, Frantz Fanon, Michael Foucault, and Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari have expressed how the psyche is a prime field on which ideologies of domination, rationalized as natural and normal, first take root. Decolonial thought and practice seeks to understand, move beyond, in a word, to heal the wounding caused by the dehumanizing, fragmenting effects of the racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, patriarchy, and human centrism that we inherit through the histories of colonization of the Americas as elsewhere in the third world. Therein lies a goal for all pedagogies in the music galaxy I orbit. An experience has been my biggest teacher. Being a part of a thriving music and art movement in East LA in the early 1990s, I experienced countless decolonial lessons in local and international communities. One of my most influential and transformative experiences took place in 1997 in the mountains of Chiapas, where my partner Quetzal and I, along with 120 other Chicanos, experienced a 5-day cultural encuentro. This is where we first experienced the early beginnings of the collective songwriting method. So, take a look.
¿Por qué dice eso? A ver, habla un poquito más. Al decir que las clases de la escuela, explíqueme más. ¿Quién dijo eso?
Tienen que trabajar con los padres y darnos el derecho de poder escoger la forma de cómo trabajar con nuestra juventud.
Collective songwriting really brings the community in to do the work of music. It really brings them in to engage in that process. And by having them be a part of that process gives them a sense of ownership to the ideas, to the discussions that are taking place while they're creating music, as a way of articulating something beyond what's written on paper or what's being suggested by somebody else. This is something that music allows them to create for themselves. And I think that has been the most powerful thing to witness in every one of these spaces.
Este evento fue maravilloso, iluminarte. porque me iluminó hasta ser como compositora de canciones. Fue algo muy divertido, expresivo, en donde podemos transmitir sobre el arte, sobre la educación, sobre nuestros derechos, y esto mismo que aprendimos vamos a transmitirlo a nuestros hijos y a nuestra comunidad.
We've had workshops on DACA DAPA and deferred action. We've had workshops on the local control funding formula. We've had workshops on Boyle Heights for youth and youth advocacy in general. We've had workshops on Prop 47 and reduced sentencing. We've had workshops on restorative justice. So we've done a lot of work and put a lot of, have invested a lot of time and energy into this idea of collective songwriting.
The band Quetzal and individual artists that are part of that collective have really been working from a place of deep heritage and community aesthetics and values, and exploring a lot of different kinds of music, and also a process that is part of all kinds of traditional arts, a process that's rooted in community. And so from that emerges Quetzal's collective songwriting methodology, which is very hand in glove with traditional arts processes. And so it was very natural evolution for ACTA to really be able to take advantage of these artists who have a lot of experience in this methodology and to bring that to a larger scale in Boyle Heights.
Collective songwriting as a method and the ways in which Chicano artivistas implement it in community has roots in the Zapatista movement. The Zapatista movement is a movement that really identifies autonomy and self-determination for communities in struggle. A group of Chicano artists, activists, went to Chiapas and studied these methods, and the musicians studying these Zapatista methods developed the collective songwriting method, along with a very important figure in the movement, and her name is Rosa Marta Zarate.
This is coming out of a Chicano tradition, Chicano community that has been doing art and activism for many decades. It's part of the ethos, part of the fabric of the Chicano community. And so collective songwriting has now become a very important piece of that fabric that not only establishes a space where a community can have a conversation through the composition of a song, but that artists themselves have a space at the table for social justice and organizing.
It's a recycling world. Everybody sing that for me, please. Nice and loud. Da, da. I'm recycling my bad ways to make some better days. It's a recycling world. Again, nice and loud. I'm recycling my bad ways to make some better days. It's a recycling world.
At my mama's face, man, tears in her eyes. Asking God, why did he do this to me? This is playing like a movie. Stuck in the sand, trying to find another plan. I'm not gonna be that bum man, kicking that can. I'm trying to be a grown man, handle my priorities as a young teen minority.
Lace up my shoes when I'm in the game. You can't shine like me, cause everybody's not the same. My dreams is like
never ending rain. If you took a couple steps in my shoes, you will feel my pain. Life full of crime, a lot of things in my mind. Teen life's getting took, so I'm trying to refrain. The dirty south is the place from where I came. Trying to make a living, can't hold chump change. Cops killing off African Americans. It's a cold world that we're living in. Can't take it, so you know I find different ways to claim life. So I gotta get it in.
Wow. Right? Give those youth a round of applause. A song as a sonic and literary manifestation is life's soundscape, a unique cathartic memento, as well as a powerful political tool. A song can also be an important historical text. A person's testimonio, life views, triumphs, aphorisms, and struggles can be expressed in song lyrics. In this way, song lyrics can transmit ways of knowing and theorizing about life. It can also be viewed as alternative ways of creating knowledge. When practiced in community, songwriting can be a powerful exercise in consensus building and collective knowledge production. As we witnessed in the video, most lyrics demonstrate the youth's deep understanding of recidivism, police brutality, and what it feels like to get caught up in the carceral system. Their sharing of past traumas, poverty, a lifetime of injustices endured, fear, and plea for a better future were presented all in conversations. The 5 days yielded 3 compositions and transformative moments of vulnerability and trust, and most importantly, knowledge via lyricism that demonstrated an acute awareness of their situation as youth of color caught up in the school-to-prison pipeline, state-sanctioned violence, and their desire to escape it. Writing a song with and alongside the community is a rapid and erratic consensus-building exercise. As multi-instrumentalists, musicians, we offer collective songwriting moments wherever a discussion is needed or warranted. For many organizations we have worked with, collective songwriting has replaced mundane, formal discussions that plagued never-ending organizing meetings. Music harnessed in this way assists us in summiting into new forms of analysis. We are able to dream a little clearer and are often more bold in our ideas and plans for different future. Music can also bring into the fold non-traditional thinkers, for creativity isn't always tamed by language bound by a strict set of communication rules in order to formulate ideas. Song, poetry breaks apart symbols, signs, index, and we make unexpected connections. It is irreverent to linear thought and in this way, an assault on Western ideological paradigms. The music and chords chosen also have emotional value, which further entices the mind and spirit to think freely. Most importantly, all of this is happening alongside others and as a collective process. Perhaps the Zapatistas, as poets themselves, knew the power that artists could have. We, Zapatistas, Chicanos, were both dreamers and believed that our dreams could become reality. At present, we've facilitated hundreds of workshops and community meetings, K-12 classrooms, parent groups, immigrant organizations, colleges, universities across the country, correctional facilities, detention centers, music festivals. Over the years, and in order to be more effective facilitators in this process, we began to refine and note best practices while facilitating. We learned that art is more than decor or adornment to the real thinking and policy making that yields cultural change. There are various examples at present that have been documented where governments looked to artists for guidance. As Doris Summers has documented, Atanas Mocas, mayor of Bogotá, Colombia, for example, stated, quote, "When I feel trapped, I ask myself, what would an artist do?" Indeed, in 1994, we see the mayhem in Bogotá and the lawlessness, disobedience of traffic signals. The cure and implementation by the mayor of the city is, quote, mime over matter. He employed mimes rather than traffic cops to beckon the public to obey the traffic signals and thus the safety of pedestrians. Summer states, quote, "One important lesson that we learned from Mocas is that without pleasure, social reform and political pragmatism shrivel into short-lived, self-defeating pretensions." As Schiller stated, quote, pleasure and pain are the only springs that set the instincts in motion, end quote. With the encuentro experience embodied, shortly thereafter we encountered son jarocho and how this participatory practice can yield important discussions. A couple more of slides from the encuentro, a very young us. So here is a son jarocho, one of the many sones in the repertoire.
Ay, no más, no más. 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 Rascando para empezar. Yo a los dioses les imploro. Yo a los dioses les imploro. Rascando para empezar. Ay, no más, no más. Ay, no más, no más. Que el bruto pueda matar, siendo testigo este foro, hoy que lo vengo a enfrentar, que se me aparezca el toro. Ay, no más, no más. Ay, no más, no más. Uy. Acá toro bravo, te vengo a enfrentar. Picarán a tiento que se va a enterrar dentro de mi pecho. Quiero comulgar, Virgencita Santa de la Caridad, quiere darme muerte el fiero animal. Ay, no más, no más, ay, no más, ay, no más. Uy. Una.
Rooted in a history of colonization, labor exploitation, and resistance, the music, poetry, and dance of Mexico's Fandango emerged as a unique cultural mixture of African, indigenous, and Spanish Andalusian influences. Prominent in southern Veracruz, Mexico, Fandango is currently exercised as ritual celebration in honor of a town's patron saint, or as part of other community celebrations such as weddings, baptisms, and funerals. Convivencia, or the deliberate act of being with each other as community, is a social, moral, and music aesthetic principle of Fandango practice and central reason for the gathering. Fandango as a ritual community practice has spread worldwide, taking on political and social significance beyond its humble Mexican roots. In California alone, Chicano, Latino, Japanese, African-American communities have also begun to engage with elements of the Fandango toward greater social and political awareness. What is most significant is how communities across the country have established Fandango as important sites of gathering. We need only look to the local Seattle Fandango project, about 12 plus years in existence. For Fandango, and particularly the convivencia, or the conviviality inherent in the practice, is able to inspire and or instigate dialogue and critical consciousness among its practitioners, which can lead to greater analysis of a person's community, life, and their respective emotional, economic, spiritual, and health in society. Fandangos are ephemeral, yet important conscious-raising moments, but the music has also yielded important collaborations, such as Entre Mujeres and Fandangobon, where we explored the social, but also the sonic relationship and the desire to elevate women's expression and voice of dissent in the translocal movement. Rarely do we think of art, music, and culture as something that all of us have a right to do and do in community. Entre Mujeres was important because we collectively created this together. For a lot of the women in this project, it sort of brought them out of something that they weren't necessarily used to doing. They challenged themselves and how they conceived of music in their lives.
Esta nueva educación que es parte de este proyecto de proyectar dignidad del trabajo de la mujer, ¿no? sea, que la mujer puede tocar un instrumento, que la mujer puede componer, que la mujer puede hacer aportaciones, ¿no? Es parte de la transformación para este siglo, en donde el hombre, pues ya también ahí tiene que aprender a practicar así la equidad de género.
Es diferente porque involucra personas que no hemos trabajado juntas, hasta nosotras mismas que venimos de Veracruz.
Cuando conocí a Marta me dice, oye Chita, mira, tengo una idea, quiero que participes con nosotros en este proyecto. Y yo, wow, es muy ambicioso.
The lyrics, the messages, the music itself, the way it felt, it really defines when women come together making music, how deep it can be.
It was a great few weeks that we spent that were really empowering, no, sobre todo, because you see women of different ages from different places coming together to play music, and of course driven by like son jarocho or la música de Veracruz, but also by this new idea and this convivio, no, de entre las mujeres.
For me, almost felt like once in a lifetime. Like, when does this ever happen? And you know, and it leaves you with the feeling of this has to happen again. Like, this can't be over. It was just a really beautiful experience. I've always been in bands full of men, but never full women. Never like 20 women on stage together. I didn't even know it was possible.
There's women all over the world who are mind-blowing, talented, and amazing, but you don't always get to see them because we work on all aspects of life, you know, and sometimes, you know, the performance aspect is not always the thing that's in the forefront of our journey.
All the time, when history is written, you know, women are written out of history, and so this is a way to ensure that we as communities are writing women into history.
When you really stop to think about how this music was created collectively across borders, the knowledge that you get from it, I think is so profound and meaningful, because I think it stands of a piece of many lives lived, collective lives living and theorizing together. There's a short documentary about that online, but we're going to share one of the songs, a short piece of a song that's called Chispas, and it's a song about the roots of slavery in both the blues and the son jarocho.
Chispa envía con la fuerza, canta negro en el fulgor. Con tu brazo de piel tersa quema el sol, brilla el sudor. El sonido se hace canto, surge en la repetición. Sobre fierro calma llanto, martilla su corazón. En mi pasión. ¡Uy! El profundo mar inquieto, la tormenta en sus entrañas. Sufrimiento, mil maltratos, la vida que lo engaña. No hay brazos que lo arrullen, ni labios que besarán. El negro ríe y canta melodía que sanará. Encablado negro por las vías, uy, oscurece el negro y no acabó. Habrá que trabajar día tras día, las pistas del tren en mi pasión.
Universal, yo. Holding it down. These practices are what Laura E. Perez might call eros ideologies. Quote, ideologies that center eros, or love, in positive relationships of interdependence and identity with humanity as a species that shares a common life force with the rest of the natural world. Eros ideologies are plural. Just a little piece of another project that revolves around Fandango. Fandangobon is a gathering of three distinct cultures, the West African, the Mexican Son Jarocho culture, and the Obonodori, which is Japanese Buddhist traditions.
This is our third year, and each year the circle is getting more and more diverse.
As long as the energy is really good, it's very simple to collaborate. And, you know, everyone has their own instruments from wherever their country is. They all have the same roots when you really think about it.
Fandango, Obon, polycultural remix, jam and a prayer, Angelino souls, transforming ethnic borders, birthing a new world.
We're building an idea that it's a good thing for people of different cultures to come together, to convene in a way that's maybe unusual, actually, because they actually get to participate in another form that's different from theirs, but then they can also see, oh, you know, there's similarities about this, too. We want people to feel comfortable crossing borders into other communities.
It don't matter who you are or what you do in your life. If you walk down that street and you see all these people right here doing this beautiful thing, oh, I swear
you're gonna want to jump in.
You're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
To quote, big hand for Nobuko Miyamoto, yo. To quote Bibi Bakare Yusuf, African feminist scholar, the body is unconsciously reperforming invented traditions in order to reduce them to a singular grammar that awaits liberation from the silence of historical violence. The body's arc of traumatized movement thus strives to create a singular metaphorical community, inventing and defending a collective self, yearning to create solid identities, common legacies, and attachments. Led by Japanese-American artist activist Nobuko Miyamoto, Fandangobon is a dialogue between three communities, and now growing 4 communities, 5 in the greater Los Angeles area, the Japanese Buddhist community and Chicano Latino Fandango community as it started. It was what jump-started it, but there's many more now. The Fandangobon deliberately centers circle dance, music, and poetry in order to build and inspire our respective and collective communities. In this way, Fandangobon has been an important creative process that has generated practice meant to instigate dialogue in community pertaining to ecology, gender, race, class, space, nation, citizenship, and memory. Furthermore, Fandangobon is consciously composing, choreographing shared repertoire meant to archive these discussions and in order to foment this cross-collaborative practice, which is ultimately meant to outlive the founders. Again, music as a malleable tool. I am in my 11th year at Scripps College, and I continue to implement these kinds of practices as an associate professor. And I have published my first book, which has been translated into the Spanish language just in 2024. And I just finished 2 years as a Scripps Humanities Institute director. I've also engaged in public scholarship in recordings and collaborations across disciplines, disrupting the apartheid of theoretical domains. In my capacity as a musician and artivista, I've worked with organizations, novelists, playwrights, and altar makers, or altaristas. And the goal is to create, to reflect, to write, and document the repertoire and the archive, whether it is to publish on paper, release vinyl, and have an accompanying website, for example, in Memory and Return. Is a vinyl music project with David Hidalgo, a reflection of 4 generations of East Los Angeles residents reflecting on the city and all its changes. The LA River, the streets tied to 4 different family histories, joys, and struggles. Coupled with this album, we are building out a website and various videos that explains the project and the important intellectual and historical work it does. The vinyl would be sold on site, yes, and perhaps there's an opportunity to book the project from time to time, but more importantly, I want the website to serve as a place for educators, music lovers, and the general public to go and learn about Los Angeles through Angelino expression. Learn about it through the album and the various readings and art expression that we will recommend, and reflections by scholars and community members. The other projects that we've been working on, yay, well, there's a movement. It's David Hidalgo, myself, Tailana Enomoto, Juan Perez, and my son, Sandino Gonzalez Flores, and Ofelia Esparza. But we're also, I'm working with Virginia Grice, and I'll just play a little quick video about what this project is rather than hearing me talk about it.
Riding the Currents of the Wilding Wind is a concept album. It's a performance lecture, and it's also a theatrical concert. This work is inspired by the writing and the text of Elena Maria Viramontes, and so mostly I'm thinking of and conceptualizing how to adapt it for the stage. We've been making this project through a series of workshops. We were invited by the Center for Imagination in the Borderlands to be here at Arizona State this week.
My role is to really not just contribute creatively from an original standpoint, but also by conducting collective songwriting workshops in different sites that we visited. The role of collective songwriting as a method is really about making sure that we're taking stock of the community and how they've been affected by gentrification or land displacement, something that is very central to the project in and of itself.
Virginia Grice and Martha Gonzalez are Matakia Fellows, and that fellowship program uses a Mojave word, which means to gather people from across varied and wide lands. And it's really important that we use some of these value systems, these indigenous knowledge systems, which have a lot of tried and true methods for gathering people to create and to make and to be alongside one another.
As an artivista, as a composer, as somebody who's really believes in the power of music as a kind of material trace of a people's history, being a part of a project like this that has historical roots in early displacement in East Los Angeles, and the ways in which we have an opportunity to connect this with what's happening now in different spaces across the country was just invaluable. And I knew that I had to be a part of it. This project.
So I won't, so we have very short time, right? 5 minutes? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but as I finish reading this, I want you to see images of my beautiful Los Angeles, which is a lot like beautiful Seattle. Very different. But I just want to say that, you know, without, to quote D.G. Kelly, without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. Imagination and hope take courage. It is a doing when there seems nothing left to be done. Activities that generate hope is what we must engage in now, more than ever. I believe it will help us connect to each other, and together we can summit into new forms of analysis. Activists and intellectuals Gustavo Esteva and Suri Prakash use a phrase to describe the significance of hope in grassroots communities. They state that to express having hope in Spanish is to, quote, abrigar esperanzas. That is, abrigar is to shelter, to protect, to keep warm. As Esteva and Prakash observe, people at the grassroots have little expectations in the system, therefore hope is golden. They continuously nourish and protect these hopes. In this new regime and the sweltering ignorance that looks upon us, we must not lose hope. When we come to understand that love is a powerful force that challenges and resists domination, hope is that which leads us to internalize us through our very actions. That's bell hooks. Hope must be acknowledged, valued, and freed from colonialist thought, cynicism, indifference, in order for imagination to be exercised. Eros ideologies, imaginaries. And so, a quick couple of versos about a dreamer breathing fire, and this song is called Tragafuegos.
Por la noche, ay, sus sueños por la noche, mar del sueño que ilumina ese oficio entre los coches, ay, ese oficio entre los coches. Fuego, fuego, la lumbre y su dueño, en cada pecho de lágrimas, risas de un sueño. La lumbre y su dueño, en cada pecho de lágrimas, risas de un fuego, 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 fuego. El hombro de la sombra va para un mano humilde ser, toreando bestias de ciudad, nos brinda luz para ver. Fuego, fuego, la lumbre y su dueño, en cada pecho de lágrimas, risas un sueño. La lumbre y su dueño, en cada pecho de lágrimas, risas un sueño. Fuego, fuego, fuego.
Thank you.
Give it up for Gonzalia.
Sorry, I think I went over. But please, give me some questions. Let's talk about this.
One from the, well, several from the side of co-creative acts and participatory actions across sectors can be messy work. How do you manage the messiness, both collectively and personally? And you rock.
Oh. Well, it is messy. And I think that when we say community, oftentimes we expect that it's always harmonious. And that's just not the case, right? Community is like family. It's messy, right? There's a lot of conflict sometimes, right? But I think that the more we spend time together, and sometimes it's practices like these that sort of alleviate a kind of tension, right? That where you can have a conversation, but you can also enjoy something together, right? Where the tension in the room doesn't have to be the only thing in the room. There can be music, there can be good energy that transpires, and I think that that's helpful. That can only be helpful, right? Especially when folks refuse to go to therapy, you know? There's nothing wrong with not going to therapy. Actually, there is. Yes, there is. We need to talk. Sorry, I've been in therapy for years and it still doesn't work, but I'm still trying. You know? Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, please, please.
How does Fandango intersect with religion, spirituality, and how do they support each other?
Well, I love that question. I think that, you know, Fandango is a celebratory sort of event, and I think religion is always there, and it's centralized, but it's not the only thing it's used for, right? So one of the greatest celebrations is in a town called Tlacotalpan, and Tlacotalpan, where they bring out the viejas. It's like the biggest. It's like Encuentro de Jaraneros. That's where it starts. Where all these instruments called jaranas meet, and everybody who plays this instrument, and you know, and there's just 3 days of nonstop partying for this Virgin, right? That they walk out at midnight, sing Happy Birthday to her, and then parade her along the river, a beautiful Tlacotalpan river, and then they bring her back home, and they put her back in the ermita until next year. And so, exactly. So it's there, it's central, but you don't have to be part of the religion to be a fandanguero. I hope that makes sense, but that's just kind of how it is, yeah. People are fandangueros, even people that don't speak Spanish. I just have to say that. Okay, yes.
Hi. I work for the Alumni Association, so thank you so much for being such an incredible representative of UW alums.
Yay.
And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about being an academic and an artivista, and how sometimes it feels like in academic settings it has to be the next published book, the next article, the next thing. And I think in the artivista space, you don't have to complete, and the music can speak for itself. And talk about the interplay between the two of those.
Yeah, I think I have to really recognize scholars and artists that came before me, people like Audre Lorde, people like, Anzaldúa, and like, you know, folks that really theorized their work, but also had the other half of their book was poetry, right? Pages and pages of poetry, and that was a precedent. I think that was very helpful. But then you still had the histories of understanding that people like Anzaldúa didn't get tenure for this book that everybody assigns now and had became iconic, right? And she died without, you know, she got her PhD post-mortem, and she died with no health insurance. And it's a crime. It was such a crime. So I think that what we've spent the remaining years doing is trying to build the language around what we do, right? And I think that as an academic, that's what I think, that I'm really paying attention to what's happening in my body, what's happening in the community, thinking about performance studies. Performance studies has been an invaluable tool for me as an academic, and of course, as an interdisciplinary scholar in gender, women, sexuality studies, you learn so many different methodologies that you can use and lift language that can only assist us into sort of justifying how important art, music, and culture is in community, and how invaluable it is to knowledge and knowledge systems, right? And so I think that's what I'm mostly really paying attention to when I'm really kind of putting more of my academic brain on. But then at the same time, I don't want to feel like up here, right? Like, as you can see, I'm still working out the like, back and forth, back and forth. And that's something that I'm willing to do because I feel like it's part of who I am, and I don't want to give up the music part. I like to sing in the middle of my presentations, if only to wake people up, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wake us up! All right, put that shit down and then start talking again, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? And then if somebody's like nodding off, they wake up like, oh, okay, right? And at least they pay attention to the next little bit, right? But yeah, it's sort of like that part, the presentational part, I think I've become more confident in doing, and then shifting, and so I'm trying to invent my way of just like going back and forth. And you know, the person that really inspired me, and when I first saw her, and then I perform, and then I saw her, I found out that she was an NYU professor. It was Anna DeVere Smith. She's a theater and a playwright, and I was just blown away by her. I was like, that's what I want to be in my field, right? That's who I want to be, and I hope I've lived up at least a little bit of what she does and how she just moved me and made me think and inspired me and made me cry and made me think and loved my city the way she did. Yeah. Twilight. Look it up.
Thank you so much. I have enjoyed both nights with you so far. I have a question about being a BIPOC individual who is rooted in culture and, community and family and earth-centered practices, spiritual practices, and moving into the academic space, which is culture shock. And really what I'm interested in hearing from you is what kind of tips or guidance would you have for somebody who is in early career academia, who is navigating these spaces that are so starkly different and really, can show up as another way of colonization for us? I think that, and what to look for. What are the lights that we should move towards?
Yes. Oh, what a great question. Thank you so much. I would not have survived academia and what was being thrown at me had it not been for the Fandango project. Like for the community that I found in the Seattle Fandango project, And the crazy part is that I talk about it like it's a project we started and as if it were really intentional, and it wasn't. It was an act of self-care because we were so lonely here. We came from such a big community and big families and community in Los Angeles that when we arrived here in Seattle, we experienced, I guess people named it, I didn't name this, but somebody said the Seattle freeze or something. And everybody's really nice. I can't say that people were mean to anything like that, but people were sort of like, oh, we should have a meal sometime, yeah. And then it wouldn't go past that, right? And we were sort of like, I'm not saying that I needed to be in somebody's home right away, it was a very different way of relating. And I don't know if it's the cold, I don't know if it's the light, I don't know what it is. It's a culture, right? And I understood that immediately when somebody named it. I said, okay, and it wasn't. And so anyhow, we started we started saying like, hey, you guys, do you play? Do you remember? There are some people here that we started playing with. Eduardo Sierra, who's here, he's in the back over there. And Iris Viveros, who's now at General Women's Sexuality Studies alumni as well, doctora. And so, we started getting together and just playing together, playing music together. So the short answer is community. And reminding myself that this was not the most important thing. I love you, UW, but it was not the most important thing, that there was a whole life that I couldn't let go of, that was a way of being that I couldn't forget. And whenever that got really hard, that we went into this, and then there were people in the academy that was like, this is great, what's going on? You want to teach it we'll give you one of these classrooms. And we taught the entire time free. Like the UW got a lot out of the Seattle Fandango project, and at present, the SFP is also being very deliberate about like, hey, don't take credit for what we are doing here in community. So that's also really important, right? So anyhow, it's just, I say that the light is community, and then networking, also building community within the system itself with other like-minded people you can talk to. And then together within your field and maybe outside of your field, because sometimes the field, I'm not quite sure what field you're in, but it could be like horse blinders and there's just one way. And I really believe that part of the decolonial project in the academy is to bridge across disciplines. Because, it's so ridiculous that we just we compartmentalize our learning, our entire schooling, unless you're in an experiential learning as a child. Our entire learning is compartmentalized. And it's only until grad school sometimes, and even then, that we are required to think across or to think big and come up with a project, but we forget that life is interdisciplinary, and we need to we need to utilize all of us in all the ways that we know and the communities that we're a part of in order to, bring ourselves to some kind of success, our definition of success in our practice, Thank you.
And then we have another one from Slido. How do you incorporate restorative justice in the arts, and how does that create further impact with education?
Wow, that's a deep question. I am not a restorative justice practitioner. I believe in it and I think it's important, but I don't feel like I'm skilled enough to really talk about it in a way that's informed. I think people are throwing around the word a lot and really not practicing restorative justice. They attack each other on social media and they talk about restorative justice, but social media is not a place to restore justice. I think that it has to be done in the present, in community. It has to be done not audience-based spectacle, and I think that's a real disservice to the people that are really doing it, And so, I feel like I can't answer that question really. All I know is that I know what art, music, and culture does for me. I've seen what it's done for some communities. I also see when there is conflict, sometimes I don't always know what to do. And that's okay not to have all the answers. I think that staying in a practice and trying to be committed to, restoring the energy of the community is a lot, and that we're gonna keep learning. We're gonna keep learning together, and it's important to, so it's kind of a half answer, and I apologize, but I'm not skilled enough to talk about restorative justice in an honest way.
And then we're just going to do one last question, and I wanted to see if anyone in the audience here had one.
Okay.
Or should I do one from Slido? Okay. What were some of the turning points that have shaped your artistry and activism?
Turning points. Well, I think my first lesson, and I talk a little bit about this in my book, I didn't talk about it much today, but is witnessing my father's longing, right? And realizing later on in life that that wasn't real and that he died for that kind of longing, besides the fact that he had, I believe he had mental, he suffered from mental illness and alcoholism, so that didn't help. But I think the way he thought about music was very warped, but understandably, it's part of the way in which most of us think about it. You professionalize, you want to be a musician, you're going to professionalize, you're going to get a record contract, and then you tour, and then you become rich and famous, or, that's the goal and the definition of success according to capitalist frameworks, right? And the first turning point for me was really learning about Zapatista philosophy and sort of understanding that, that capitalism is a social system. It's not just an economic one, that it is extractive, that it is individualistic, that it's harmed people in the world, and it's killing our planet, and we have to stop it. And it's already dead, it's not working. It doesn't work for everybody, and I think it's important for us to really, when you apply that and that understanding and knowledge base to music practice, then I think you really get to the heart of wait a minute, you start questioning everything, all the social arrangements, right? You question everything, and that's what we as feminists do. We question power, we challenge it, and that's something that we have to stay with, and everybody does it with the tools that they enjoy and they love the most, and for me it was music, being in community and continuing to learn from people and building communities and connecting with communities around the world, or as much as I can, and then bringing my son to it, and hearing him theorize himself about things and challenge us, and so that's been it, I think, the community, and then becoming a mother and realizing how important what we've been doing, how important it is, and how he sees it, and how he's been impacted by it. He was in some of those videos singing his little heart out, And he was at our concert as well, and so I'm very proud of the fact that my son understands that language.
Well, I was going to have Michelle do this, but everybody, let's thank Dr. Martha Gonzalez for joining
Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.